Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my revisit of Rail Route. So this segment that we're running on this channel, I'm still working out my intro patter. It's called Worth It Then, Worth It Now, and it's revisiting games that I looked at in the past on my main channel. You can find links somewhere under the format of Worth Your Time, Worth Your Money. Essentially, this is a chance for me to revisit games that I shouted out then, maybe you missed, but I think they deserve another sort of signal boost, and I try and line it up with things like sales. Now at the moment, Steam is in the midst of its spring sale, so there's a lot of things on sale, but this is what I chose to pick out of the top. And suffice to say, I think this game is really excellent. It can serve as a palate cleanser because it is a lighter puzzler. However, it's also a dangerous, just one more turn, it's 3 a.m. and I just got to get the trains running kind of hole that you can fall down. I find myself itching to go back to it now that I'm really getting the rhythm. I feel like this time around I've got it even better, a better grasp than last time, but who knows, maybe I just forgot a lot of stuff. So let's just go through it. Basically, you are, well, I suppose they call it a conductor in this, and, the whole train universe is so outside of my knowledge base, and yet it's something I could have gladly gone into. I kind of wish I was into trains or like a train engineer instead, But in this, you're sort of managing where the trains go and keeping them running on time and changing tracks, and it has that sort of abstracted rail system aesthetic, which is very clean. It's good at getting that detail across, but like if you're expecting to drive trains hands-on, that's not this game. One of the really cool touches that they added to it is that you've got this old boy mentor, voice acted and all that, handing over the keys to the kingdom, basically training you up as a tutorial, sort of turning into a story mode thing. Like, you can ignore that totally if you want and just, sandbox it and do your own thing and play the game proper. But it's a cool addition. This is a game that has no business having any sort of story mode at all. And, it's not exactly the most robust thing. It's more of a radio drama playing out. And like I said, tutorial, spoon feeding you some information. But it's actually very endearing, very wholesome, and very welcome. Kind of once you see it now, it's sort of like, well, if a company has the budget to splash around for this, a bit of writing, a bit of voice acting, any of these sort of games could easily put this in. Kind of becomes a bit of a no-brainer. So good for them for coming up with this and making something work that I feel like in the elevator pitch, no one would really go for. So it's got a very charming little story mode, but the meat of the game is the gameplay. And so at its core, you're essentially just trying to keep the trains running on time, right? Memes aside, you will have some nominal trains just to get the ball rolling, and you can pick all different maps. There's a whole bunch of them. They're kind of inconsequential, but I suppose you could pick something from like your home territory or whatever. You'll start with a couple of stations unlocked and some nominal tracks, right? Just to get the ball rolling. So the idea is that you'll have the train scheduled, it'll rock up, the game will kind of warn you, you accept it onto the station, you redirect all the gates from its destination, point A to point B, you can just mouse over it, it'll tell you, and often you'll get trains that'll have, well, let's say in the beginning, a 2-point thing, like they'll go out to station B and then they'll come back to station A. So you have to get the platform right, and you have to get the destination right. So you basically redirect all the tracks, you hit the kind of go button at the front of the train track, and that will just lock that track out. It'll turn green. It's kind of collision proof. I shouldn't say that. You can crash in this, especially when it gets more complicated and you have sort of holding pins and that sort of stuff when you get really more longer form trips. But in the beginning, there are a lot of mechanisms. I can only assume, like I said, it is a video game abstraction, but you would assume that a lot of this stuff exists in real life. A lot of sort of safety built-in design sort of things to try really hard to not let you smash the trains into each other. So it reserves the track, off it goes, and it's as simple as once the train gets to the other station and clears the track, you just click on it to reverse it, make sure all the routes are locked in. You might have to change it for the return station being different. Press the go button, off it goes. That's it. That's pretty much it at its base. And as long as you don't get delayed or anything like that, because the train will start moving when it's got to go. But if you haven't sort of authorized, green lit the track and reserved it for it to go, it's not just going to thunder down the track and smash. It's going to stop, but it will get delayed. And therein lies the kind of rub, the hook. And one of the really cool things about this game, it nails this meta progression layer better than most anything I've played. In that, trains running on time are your main currency. Oh, I think it is. It might just be trains making it, but there is a sort of tier requirement. You must be this tall to get on this ride. So if you want to actually push up to the next tier of technology, say, inside of a 24-hour cycle, you will have to have had, let's say, 10 trains for that example. I can't remember the numbers. Will have to have made it on time without delay within one cycle. It's very clever. So it mixes actual well-oiled achievement and planning with the ability to grind stations. So let's break that down a little bit. So you saw my example there, right? Okay, cool. That's only one train. And that might be leaving, let's say, at 8:30, right, in the morning. This game is all about 24-hour segments infinitely on repeat. Think of them like as a day cycle in other games. So that same train's going to come back out at 8:30 and you're going to want to make it run on time. And if it gets to the station, you'll get a little green train income, and that could then be spent into the tech tree. And a lot of it is quality of life stuff. Like I mentioned that you have to accept the train onto the station. I'm pretty sure you can buy a pretty cheap nominal upgrade early that'll just do that automatically. I talked about reversing the trains as well. That's another thing you can unlock, automatic reversal, and then you can just toggle that on a station. So you can start to really low-level automate things. Then you can have sort of auto path-throughs and lockouts and all sorts of stuff, and then there's unlocking other stations, buying more track to connect everything. And then, the visual representation is not necessarily distance related. So there's sometimes where they'll go in a long distance tunnel, they kind of disappear off the map, but you have to buy those things as well. So you can just grind a couple of trains to buy out all the basic resources over a couple of day cycles, but you will get to a point where you've bought everything in tier 1 and you need to get to tier 2, and so you need to actually go beyond the grind and be efficient and do your job and get, for example, 10 trains running on time, no hitches in the 24-hour cycle. So at a station, you buy new contracts, the game offers them up. You can reject them, but I think there's a pretty significant penalty. Now, I also believe that once you buy a contract and run it for X times, sort of stick at it and pay the price, as it were, the sunk cost, you can remove it without penalty. So there's some penalties to dance around, but effectively you want to pile on more contracts, more train routes, and get your system more complicated. Spin as many plates as you can reasonably without delays, and then you'll start unlocking things even like the ability to change the time that the train moves or the station that it's departing from. So if you have some sort of cascade delay problem going on, you might be able to move the first train even just 5 minutes on its arrival departure time, and it's all very usable and readable and easy, but that might stop the domino effect of basically screwing up your entire 24-hour cycle. And it just builds and builds and builds upon that. And it baits you a little bit. It's like, all right, so on this map, good for you. You did this at the end of your 24 hours. You got 8 trains, You're in the top 44 percentile of other people that have done this, so like there's a soft competitive component to it as well. But it is really just fascinating that like the sort of instanced chunk of a 24-hour cycle and getting the trains running smoothly under your own personalized design in that time, and trying to squeeze more and more trains in and expand out stations and essentially just spin as many plates as possible. Then you unlock other tech trees for like red trains, and you're essentially moving out into further zones and more technology, and it gets more and more complicated, but it's graspable and it's enticing. That's one of the coolest things, because often these games can fall apart when they lean too hard into, let's say, grind, right? And as I said, grind is a component, and grind is actually a really cool soft buffer. In this case, it's a great example of how it should be done. Say you're, let's say, personally not skilled up enough to get 15 trains running in the 24-hour cycle on time. Insert your own wordplay, whatever. Maybe you're not like a bloody 200 IQ dude. Maybe you're like me, you're a bit of an idiot, right? But that's fine, because like I said, you could grind for a bit in that space, and you're not just spinning your wheels, you're earning XP, you're buying techs at that level. Those techs are going to make life easier. They're going to make it so you can eke out that achievement a bit better. And before you know it, you'll have enough sort of things helping hold you up to get to that 15 trains in 24 hours. It's such an incredibly clever balance. Grind used as a bit of an equalizer, as opposed to a replacement whole cloth for gameplay value. But yeah, anyway, like I said, it's addicting, and because of these, I know I've spent most of my time talking about the sort of meta layer elements to how XP and leveling up and all that works in this, but I really feel like it's kind of a perfect example of how this system could be used on just about any game to smooth the experience across all levels of players, whether you're more casual or more hardcore, and help them progress and mete out that achievement feedback loop. Anyway, I suggest you get it. It's half price now as part of that sale. It's worth every cent. Excellent little game, and I can't wait to lose another night's sleep playing it. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.